welcome. I'm Jessica Stern, Senior Manager for Local Arts and Business Partnerships here at Americans for the Arts, and welcome to the second session of Part 3 of How to Partner with Your Chamber of Commerce series. This session is entitled Reimagining Your Assets to Create Alignment with Your Chamber. We have multiple resources available for you on this activity page to view in tandem with the recording. Access the toolkit under the Toolkit tab, the transcript for this video under the Transcript tab, and additional resources are under the Resources tab. Email us at artsu@artsusa.org should you need any assistance. I'm pleased to welcome our two presenters from Louisville, Kentucky, Kate Gibson, Director of Strategic Initiatives at Fund for the Arts, and Christine Tarquinio, Vice President for Talent, Workforce, and Brand Strategies at Greater Louisville, Inc. Thank you both so much for joining us today. We're going to have a moderated conversation. And so to start, I'll ask that you each introduce yourselves, tell us who your primary constituency is, and then maybe tell us a little bit about your top priorities from your organization, and we'll dive in. Kate, would you like to start us?
Wonderful. Thanks for having us, Jessica. I've enjoyed a number of ArtSU sessions myself, and it's a pleasure to be talking to you and Christine today. I am Kate Gibson, Director of Strategic Initiatives at Fund for the Arts in Louisville, Kentucky. At Fund for the Arts, we acknowledge that the land we now inhabit is the traditional land of the Cherokee, Chickasaw, and Osage, among more than 20 other nations. The place we know as Kentucky owes its vitality to the indigenous people who called this land home for more than 12,000 years and who call it home today. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a white female presenting woman with long curly brown hair wearing a black dress. Fund for the Arts is a 74-year-old United Arts Fund and local arts agency. We're actually one of the first two United Arts Funds in the country, along with our neighbors at Arts Wave in Cincinnati. At Fund for the Arts, we generate resources for, invest in, and support arts, artists, and arts organizations. We do this through fundraising, grant making, capacity building, and promotion of our arts ecosystems. Christine?
Thank you, Kate. Hi, everybody. My name is Christine Tarquinio. As Jessica mentioned, I work at the Chamber of Commerce in Louisville, Kentucky. We are an investor-driven organization, so we work to support and help grow our businesses in the community. We are a 15-county bi-state region serving 5 counties in southern Indiana and 10 in Kentucky. We focus on advocacy, making sure that we are drafting a legislative agenda that promotes business growth in our region. We focus on economic development, so attracting businesses to the region and helping existing businesses grow here. We focus on town attraction through Live and Lou, which is our town attraction initiative. And we generally work to support the business community and make the region grow. And we do that in partnership with the Fund for the Arts, because you cannot grow a region unless you have a fantastic art scene.
Wonderful. Let's just end the session there. Just kidding. So just to start our conversation, Fund for the Arts and GLI have been partners for a long time. And I was hoping that you both could talk about that journey to becoming an equal and respected partner, both in terms of recognizing each other's priorities and also understanding where mutual benefit may exist.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Christine, you've had a longer history with GLI and with Fund for the Arts partnerships. I'm relatively new to the organization. Can you start us off with a little bit of that context and history, some of the previous projects we've worked on together?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been with the Chamber for 5 years in 2 days. And before that, about 7 years before that, I worked alongside the Chamber as well, partnering with Fund for the Arts. As I mentioned, in order for us to be able to market our community to potential talent and even to potential businesses, we have to show that we have a thriving arts community. And we're very blessed that we have a much larger and more diverse arts community than most cities of our size. We've worked together, a ton previously, serving on each other's boards, of course, making sure that our leadership are in alignment with each other and that we're taking advantage of the assets that we both have when we're collaborating. A really good example of that is obviously when we had a double dose of the pandemic and we had some significant protests in the wake of Breonna Taylor's murder. Our downtown was really struggling. So we collaborated with our Mayor Fisher, our downtown partnership, Louisville Tourism, which is our Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Fund for the Arts to really start talking about the assets that we have in our community and encourage people to come downtown, support the arts in a campaign that was called Lou Needs. This was something that we presented to all, gosh, I think there were 85 or 90 arts organizations on the call talking about how we could all collaborate to promote downtown, getting people engaged in the arts, getting people coming downtown to eat and go to plays and go to virtual plays and virtual museum showcases when we were all on lockdown. It was something that really created a sense of pride in our community. It's something that I personally have been working on. Gosh, I've been working to help build up downtown for the better part of 12 years. And we've had so much success and people are just so excited to be a part of our community. And a lot of that is the result of the engagement they have with our arts organizations. So it's really something that we're always trying to be proactively collaborative with the fund, with our downtown, with tourism, because we know you're not going to move here unless you come to visit first. And you're probably going to come to visit for something great like a PNC Broadway show or Shakespeare in the Park. You know, there's a million different things that we have here that attract different members of other communities to come and check us out.
And Christine, I was actually with an arts organization during that period. And so the Fund for the Arts brought us on, said GLI is working on this campaign. You were able to share out some of our virtual programming as well. We were able to share out some music video and some things that Lou Needs You was doing. It was that was my first sort of sense of what was happening between GLI and the Fund and the broader arts ecosystem. It was a really terrific introduction at a very hard time.
You know, the fact that we had so many arts organizations in limbo, you know, but we had so many great artists out there producing content. All of a sudden, now we all know how to use technology. It started to just gain so much attraction. And I found a lot of hidden gems in our community that I didn't know anything about because I have 3 kids, right? Like I'm programmed all the time, but I can find 45 minutes to get on my computer and see what's going on in the community.
Well, and one of the things that I think is really exciting about this partnership and the way that it's then brought in other partners is that we're able to all sort of identify each other's priorities. What are you working on? Who are the constituents you're working with? How does our mission align? And then where does it branch off from that? So we can kind of come in and out of relationship with one another. You know, you mentioned GLI and Fund for the Arts have a long-standing history. That doesn't mean we're working together sort of every day, right? It means that we're kind of coming back and saying, oh, wait, GLI is working on that. We have a new initiative. Let's bring, we'll talk about I Am an Artist or Arts in Neighborhoods in a little while. And let's come back and find out how that might match up with something that, that you already have an initiative around.
Thank you both. So let's talk a little bit about evolving priorities. And I want to start, Christine, with you on this one. I know as a chamber and an economic developer, the traditional focus is always on local business attraction and retention and the talent needs that come with that. But I also wondered how you could, if you could talk a little bit about how GLI is focusing on the national remote work trend and what's the balance there?
Wait, that's $1 million question, isn't it? Does anybody have talent problems out there in the United States? Yeah, you know, our traditional focus has been on developing regional pipelines for talent for our existing businesses and to help businesses attract talent. However, I think that there's been sort of a shift in the mindset of the American worker since the pandemic. And it used to be that people would build their life around their work. And now they're building their work around their life because they can, because many companies now offer fully remote work or at a very minimum hybrid work. And so the scope of how you attract talent really has changed. In the end of 2016, GLI created Live in Lieu, which is our talent attraction and retention initiative. You can go to liveinlieu.com and check it out, but it's basically a way for us to showcase what it's like to live, work, and play in Greater Louisville and to showcase all the assets we have. We do utilize Live in Lieu to be able to help our existing businesses here attract new talent and help them retain the talent that we have. But we also use it to attract remote workers. I see remote workers as a fantastic asset for our community, not just now, but into the future. Obviously our businesses are hurting now. They want employees now, but the type of talent that you can recruit through remote workers, it can really just expand the resources that you have in your community. The same messages that speak to remote workers, how you can make a living and still have a life, what our thriving art scene is like, how many beautiful Frederick Olmsted parks we have, the numerous number of sporting events and entertainment venues that we have. It speaks not just to the talent that we're trying to attract from a business perspective, but also just people in general that are looking for someplace new to live. You can't beat our cost of living. We have very short commute times, and all of this is against the backdrop of a really astounding community that is welcoming and diverse and engaged in volunteerism, really working to make our community a better place. So I see us as an asset for anyone that is looking to relocate, whether they have a job or they don't. And if you are looking to relocate and you don't have a job, reach out to me and I'll help you get settled.
That's great. Kate, what does this mean for Fund for the Arts and the way that you work with local businesses?
Yeah, it was really exciting to realize as we were driving some new initiatives that GLI had been doing this work for a long time. So Fund for the Arts has, for most of our history, really relied on businesses. When I go out in the community and I'm talking to folks, most of what I hear is, oh, I'm a donor to Fund for the Arts, and it's through our workplace campaigns where you give $1 a week, $5 a paycheck, and our entire over 10,000 donors at times, across the city who are all invested in the arts community. So we have a very deep relationship with local businesses, with organizations across the city. But much like Christine, we've been looking at a world where people are shifting all their priorities, whether you're working in a brick and mortar or whether you're working, across the country. What you do with your life matters more and more. We have, we'll talk about our campaign that came out of this idea. I am an artist. We call it a ground fertilizer for engagement in the arts. But it really was sparked because we were talking to people who during COVID set up pottery studios in their basement. My brother-in-law moved to Louisville during the quarantine because his company went fully remote. It was obvious that they were going to be that way. He's found a community of gardeners and woodworkers in his neighborhood in order to create that kind of community that people want in their residences and their neighborhoods. We say all the time, come to Louisville, create a life in Louisville and create and love what you do through art, right? We have a thriving arts community. There are so many opportunities indoors, outdoors in our neighborhoods, whether that's classes, educational art, performances, museums. We just have such a plethora of things to do. But that can look overwhelming. And what we see often is, empty seats, empty spaces. And so the task we had was, how do we make sure people know about all of the options that there are and know that they're welcome there, and that the arts are places for you to participate and communicate with one another and connect.
And can you talk a little bit about the City Champs program in that? Because I think maybe that's kind of where we're headed with this conversation and the overwhelm that can exist in a place that's so great, such as Louisville.
Yeah, thank you. This is definitely one of my favorite programs that we offer through the Chamber. So in 2017, Leadership Louisville, which is a leadership development organization here, they do a class every year called the Bingham Fellows, and the idea is to solve big problems. They get top professionals coming together to use their brains to figure out how to solve problems. And one of the problems that was presented to them was, how do you make sure that when people move to a community, they stay? And our research shows that when people relocate, if they leave because they feel like they don't fit. They haven't found their people. And so this Big and Fellows class came up with the idea of City Champs. So it's sort of a welcome wagon of humans that are wanting to welcome you and make sure that you feel welcome and that you find your people and you get involved. And so we have right now, we do 2 training sessions a year, and we have about 160 ambassadors. These are people who volunteer their time just to be a resource for anybody that's new to Louisville or considering relocating. We train them on how to talk about the school system and the art scene. We make sure that they're fully educated on the art scene for sure. Safety, the parks, neighborhoods, really any kind of question that you might have if you're considering relocating to a region or if you're here. It's also a really great resource for trailing spouses or partners. We find that our employers are great at welcoming the person we're hiring, right? But then, you know, if your trailing partner or spouse is unhappy, you probably aren't going to be here that long, right? So every other month we have a meetup for City Champs and new residents, trailing spouses, trailing partners, to be able to come together, meet people that are like them or different than them, and really get engaged in the community. We also partner with the Fund for the Arts to give City Champs special access to different arts events so that they can go out and be advocates for the arts as well.
So as we were sort of looking at what does a remote workforce look like, how do we reach these people who are moving to Louisville? And we also look at, you know, my background is in performing arts. And so, you know, a history of papering houses when we needed to, when we were short on seat, when we had seats available. But so often I know those efforts feel almost like, you know, yelling into the wind, right? I'm going to send out ticket offers to anybody I can, and hopefully we'll just have people in the seats and that'll be enough. But if we think larger than that, if we think, how do we ensure that those people are then ambassadors for our theater, for our museum, for our spaces? How can we make sure that when we have those ticket offers, they're going to the right people? So I went straight to the GLI website and I was like, great, what is GLI doing in this world? I know they're working with Live and Lou and people new to Louisville. And I came across the City Champs program, which I didn't know anything about at the time. I called Christine and Tasha, your office, and was really excited to learn that actually the Fund for the Arts had been kind of integral in the initial steps of putting City Champs together, right? So there had always been this alignment and this understanding that the arts was a really important part. But then we said, what if, okay, great, how can we continue partnering? What if we can offer ticket discounts? What if we can offer free tickets to this group? So that's something that's in its pretty inaugural phases. I think we've had a few offers out. We're still working with arts groups to make this kind of a regular part of their processes too. But so far it's going well and people are responding well. Yeah.
Great. That was a great segue. Thank you. In the comment about, you know, bringing people to the arts, we know also that so much about creating equitable access to the arts is bringing the arts to people rather than bringing the people to them. So wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the neighborhood work that you both have been doing in the cultural path and just thinking about expanding so that there is more equitable access through your programming.
Yeah, I'll lead a little bit, and Christine, you know, chime in also with what y'all are doing. Cultural Pass is one of our favorite programs at Fund for the Arts, Cultural Pass. And I moved to Louisville just 3 years ago myself with a then 4-year-old. And when I read about Cultural Pass, I thought, well, this is the town I want to live in. With Cultural Pass, which is a partnership between Metro Louisville, government, our library systems, and about 60 arts and cultural venues, and the Fund for the Arts. Any person age 0 to 21 can sign up for a Cultural Pass. You sign up at your local library. It's completely free. And you sign up and then have access to, this year it was 57 arts and cultural venues. That means free access to museums and the zoo. It means performances, dance classes at Louisville Ballet, a riverboat cruise on the Belle of Louisville, tours at historic museums, just really an incredible array of opportunities that go on from June 1st through Labor Day that you can just access and go to. Some are sign up, some are just show up. And we continue working. That program will be 10 years old this next summer. And we continue working at how to remove even more barriers. But this year we had 60,000 arts and culture experiences that came through the Cultural Pass. So it's a pretty incredible program. We also started focusing on what we call arts in neighborhoods, which was saying there are incredible arts happening in every discipline all over the city, but a lot of times they're happening in the space where they happen. And the only way you know about them is if you've ever been to that space before, right? So we're instead collaborating with neighborhood associations, civic leaders, and arts leaders to bring the arts into the neighborhoods where people are already gathering. We had 3 events last year. We'll have 4 this year. And then we're also working to support existing neighborhood arts events. Have a photo of a couple of just some people enjoying some of those that I'll show you. But it's been really wonderful. The numbers in some of our surveys have demonstrated things like with audiences, we asked, how many of you have ever been to this area or seen these artists before? And the numbers were like 67% of the people attending had never been to that part of town before, that neighborhood. 193 to 100% of them said they intended to return. And when they were there, they were, eating at local restaurants, shopping at local shops. And so that's been a really terrific program. The next step is then really measuring, are they going back to those arts organizations? Let me show you just some fun photos here. Oh. Nope. There we go. Just a couple of photos from some of our Arts in Neighborhoods events, a number of everything from visual arts with the Little Loom House to Guru Vandana Arts Academy and the River Lotus Lion Dancers there in the corner. Christine, do you want to add anything to that question? I kind of went on for a while.
No, I mean, it's great. I would say that our neighborhoods each have their own unique soul to them. That's something that I'm sure a lot of other communities have in some way, shape, or form, but they really are uniquely different. And so that creates all kinds of opportunities for us to showcase them in terms of additional neighborhood diversity. We are focused on our entire region, right? So we're outside of just the urban core of Jefferson County, and we extend into Southern Indiana, into the more rural counties in Kentucky, so that we can help to communicate these great experiences that are happening here and even out into the region to a larger population. In collaboration with Louisville Tourism, GLI promotes every arts possibility that comes through, not just to our business community, making sure that we're communicating our support of it and asking them to support. Not only do we want to concentrate our efforts inside Jefferson County, which is our urban core, but we also extend out into the outer counties, into Southern Indiana, into the more rural counties in Kentucky, making sure that we bring those experiences to everyone in the region.
Well, and thank you, Christine. I'll add that those programs that I talked about as well are also part of the greater Louisville region. So they're not only accessible to Jefferson County residents, but Cultural Pass serves 6 different counties. And so we're working a lot in tandem in those ways too.
Wonderful. Kate, you mentioned I am an artist a little bit earlier. Let's talk a little bit about that. And I'm also hoping that you can share how that campaign takes into consideration community assets and how it's strengthening partnerships across the region.
Yeah, wonderful. I am an artist, was born in June of 2022 we had a leadership change. Our CEO and president, Andre Chemo Stone Guest, came on board. And one of the very first things he did, he started a listening tour. He started just talking to and listening to arts organizations, to business leaders. He conducted something he called after hours on Wednesday evenings, where you could just sign up and come in and talk to him. And about, I think it was 2 months in, he wrote an op-ed in the local paper, the Courier Journal. And it was basically called "I Am an Artist and You Are Too." And it encouraged people, empowered people to embrace the artists that you recognized in elementary school, in high school, to stop saying, "Oh, I used to play the trumpet," or "I used to be a dancer," but to say, "Oh yeah, I'm a dancer," whether my dancing is in my kitchen in the mornings or in a studio professionally. He knew then, and we continue to see that bear out, that the more you identify with a practice, whether that's art or sports, cooking, a hobby, the more you identify with it, the more you're able and willing to engage with it, right? And so as people can say, "Oh, I am an artist," it's a lot easier then to walk in the door and participate in a professional arts experience. So that kind of was gaining momentum. We were doing exercises with people. It started at our workplace campaigns. So as we were going in and talking to folks who worked at the banks and all over Humana and the distilleries, we were saying, "Okay, now say I am an artist and say what your art is." And people were like, "Oh, I'm not an artist." No, not me. But then as we kept going, more and more of that came out. So we turned it into a multi-year citywide or region-wide campaign that begins with a marketing campaign and will ultimately end with ticket programs and ways that then take you from saying I'm an artist to walking into a theater or a museum. I'll show you just a little bit of what the advertising campaign itself looks like. Let's see if I can share this. There we go. So you see we've got a logo. There's a lot of advertising that goes along with that. One of the very first things we did was meet with the Live and Lou team at GLI and say, "Here's what we're doing. Where does this resonate? How does this resonate with you?" And Kelsey said, "I would love it. We're going to need to do a story on it. We're going to need that to be a part of what we do." At that point, we were still building all of the assets. So now we're kind of transitioning. That was just about 6 months ago. The second part of the campaign was to identify these people. You see 4 people there in this kind of motif. These are lay people. We just started a kind of word of mouth push where we said, "Who do you know in your community, in your world, who does one thing during the day and also has an art practice that they're committed to?" And the response is overwhelming. Like every time I mention it, I get emails of 4 or 5 people who are like, "Oh, you would love my friend. They're a beautiful quilter. You should see them sing. They don't tell anybody they're a guitar player." But these people were 4 of our very initial I Am an Artist folks. You have Kayla first. They're a commercialization specialist at University of Kentucky, also a DJ. You have Michael, an editor with a local business magazine, also a jug band historian who runs the local jug band jamboree festival every summer that happens down on the waterfront. You have Nolan, a software developer with a remote company, also a woodworker. And then you have Pedro, who works in a local restaurant, and is a sculptor who's been building massively huge, sort of stunning sculptures out of metal for over 30 years. So you have all these people in our community, and we have about 20 of these. Our goal will be 75. They're showing up already in advertising across the city. and will continue in books and an exhibit that we're opening up next summer. So this was kind of our first response to how do we work with residents and business communities and identify who in their circles, who in their worlds is also already doing this. I have a story I love to tell about meeting with a local lawmaker in Frankfurt. And he said, well, this is great. High fund for the arts. I'm not an artist. And we looked around his office, though. It's full. He was from a Northern Kentucky district, an agricultural district. And if you look around his office, it was full of photography and pottery and sculpture that told the story exactly of who he was and where he was from and what was important to his community. And so we just said that, of course, you're an artist. Look around you. You've told your own story the minute we walk in through these art practices. And so that's kind of what we're doing.
And I'll say that our CEO, myself, with Andre, when he was concepting this, it was maybe a couple of weeks after he'd written the op-ed, and he came to us and said, how can we incorporate this message for remote workers when they're relocating here? And a natural fit for that was through City Champs. Making sure that we are utilizing our champs, not only as artists, which I'm sure we have many of those. I am a cooking artist and not a great painter, but I'm great with food. Making sure that we utilize them as resources, not just to talk about it, but also to talk about their own personal journey and to help be the face of part of this campaign.
Wonderful. I love that. And I feel the same way about cooking versus painting, Christine. So it's just a kind of getting into our last question here. So much of this entire series is about understanding and leveraging the concentric circles of influence and partnership. And I'm wondering if you could both talk about programmatic expansion through the city. So, we've been talking about Fund for the Arts and GLI, but could you both maybe talk a little bit about those broader municipal partnerships beyond the two organizations, and just kind of exploring that a little bit before we close?
Christine, I've talked a lot. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can touch on that a little bit. Obviously, as a 15 county by state organization, we cross both sides of the river. We're working with our friends in Indiana. We're working with our friends in Kentucky, with the state of Kentucky, in Frankfurt. Collaboration is key. You can't do anything without collaboration. And in our work for business expansion and attraction, for talent growth, for regional economic growth, we have to know what everyone's doing, right? We have to know the assets that we already have in workforce or the arts or advocacy. We have to know who's on first and how we can work to support the good work that's already being done, how we can amplify that work and make sure that as many of our community members, as many of our business leaders know the good work that is being done. I think that, the benefit for Fund for the Arts is what they're doing is really fun, right? It's really engaging. Everybody has a memory of, an art that they loved or a play that they saw or a musical artist that they saw that changed their lives. And so it helps us to remind all of our constituents, our businesses, our individuals, our new residents that they too can get connected here. And we just make sure that we're doing everything we can to amplify the good work that's already being done here.
And I would just add to that the more that we know and we see that the more we partner with organizations like GLI, with Louisville Tourism, the more people can access the art that is happening, the work that we're doing, right? So whether that's an art trailhead to kind of mirror the Bourbon trailhead, we're a city of artists, and the way that we can all embrace that and the way that we can leverage that fun that Christine talks about is through finding those alignments with our partners and understanding, is this a moment where we work with Louisville Tourism? Is this a moment where we work with GLI? At what points do we come together on all of those programs?
Wonderful. Before we close, is there anything else that either of you would like to share?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say that if there's anybody out there listening to this who's considering relocating to our beautiful community, go to liveinlou.com. Check us out. We've got great jobs. I think we've got over 22,000 open jobs listed. We're a beautiful community, a beautiful art scene, gorgeous parks, and a really welcoming community. So visit liveinlou.com.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
All right. Thank you both so much for this presentation and insight. This has been a fantastic conversation. As a reminder, this is the second session of How to Partner with Your Chamber of Commerce, Part 3. As part of this package, there are 2 additional pre-recorded sessions and a digital toolkit to accompany this content. Parts 1 and 2 are available on ArtsU, and each also includes 3 on-demand sessions and a toolkit. You can also find the toolkit on the Partnership Movement at partnershipmovement.org. Many thanks again to Kate and Christine, and thank you to our community for listening to this series. Thank you.